Guess who wouldn't shut up? That's right. I think he just wants to go in the bathroom and pee. That's it. He's not unhappy about anything. He literally just wants to go into the bathroom and pee all over. All right. For manga, they're all recommends. Let's do this in order from most perfunctory to most tangent filled. So, case closed, volume 18. It's perfect. They're all so fun. He's such a nerd, and you should check out Shunsaku Kuro if it's ever been brought over to the United States. Will he ever wrap up these plots? No. It was designed to go on forever, but he still is doing some fun things with like some new characters showing up. I let you in. I petted you. All right, Cowboy Bebop. I still have not watched Cowboy Bebop, and I recognize this as a sin in myself. So I've got the DVDs, though. I'm going to fix that. I'm finally going to watch Cowboy Bebop. I actually have like a really early memory of this manga, though, because I think I read most of the manga at my library when I was like in middle school or high school or something. So I think like there's a little short story in this about a transsexual character, and I think that really stood out in my mind when I was a teenager. So I kind of had things rushing back to me. I've told the story about my cool older brother before, about how he introduced me to cool things, and like I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons, but he would reenact scenes from The Simpsons for me. And then years later, when I finally watched some Simpsons, I think, oh, I like the way that older number one Marmaduke bro used to do it better. But anyway, he used to tell me about Cowboy Bebop, which means I've always known that when I finally watch Cowboy Bebop, I'm going to love it. It's almost harder for me to watch something that I know I'm going to love, because then I know I'm gonna be like an insufferable nerd about it for the next year. So yeah, I like have to like mentally prepare myself to watch something I know I'm gonna love. The manga, though, I'd say this is just okay, and I think they're completely different stories than what like it's based on the anime, but they're different stories set in the world of the anime. So even if you've watched the anime and liked it, like this isn't just the anime and manga format, you might enjoy it. And what I'll say is like it's a couple neat little adventure bounty hunter stories that are self-contained, and from what I understand, Cowboy Bebop is one of the most episodic or like not a long complicated plot anime that's ever set up. The art, my quibble with it is I feel like the art is solid art, where I feel like everything about Cowboy Bebop to me suggests like style, like the cool billowing smoke from the cigarettes. I'd kind of like to see like maybe a punchier sense of, I don't know, pizzazz or style throughout, whereas it just feels like fun solid comics. There's a great little line towards the middle where they've got like the nice moral point where Phi Valentine is Phi Valentine the inspiration of my Valentine and Yu-Gi-Oh? Weaves, help me out. All right, so this guy feels like a helpless nowhere man, and she says, listen to me, I can't believe I'm saying this. A man isn't his money or his looks. What's important is that he has a reason for being who he is. And a woman has to love him for that reason. That's great. Like I love when they build up to like a really genuine, neat plot point in the midst of these cool little bounty hunter stories. So that's pretty decent. Oh, how do you ride the scent of air after rain in the light around us? I felt your heartbeat falling for. Look who's here. The other one is curious about what's going on, so now I'm going to have two cats crawling over me. All right, so this is getting good. 4 volumes in, it's still the girliest manga I've ever read. It's still a love triangle plot with the girl having long forlorn glances at the cute boy, and she just wants him to open up to her and tell him about her problems, just like these two. Look at them. All right, but what I kind of like about it is, whereas a lot of manga try to get around this problem by having like some sort of stupid plot contrivance, like every time he sneezes he turns into a bunny rabbit and it's a love triangle. Iyosaki Saka isn't using any like weird plot contrivance at all, and what I'll say is it's a cliche love triangle plot and unrequited love plot, but it is making it feel fresh by kind of like, just because something is cliche doesn't mean that it always has to be bad. And so what I really like that Ayo Sakisaka does is, she has the characters think about their problems. She has the characters maybe have more than one dimension to their personality. And obviously the comedy comes from the girl chasing the guy and not being able to figure out the guy as he kind of like oh, does he like her back or is he just teasing her, right? But the fact that there's kind of like this internal monologue and this internal questioning about what the right thing to do is, I think it actually makes it, even though it is a very well-worn plot type, it feels fresh because the characters actually think about some of their things. I am going to make fun of something. This has the single worst example I have ever seen of a badly placed gutter. Look at that. It's right between her eyes and over her right eye. What happened there? I want it there, next to her head, separating these two from her, and then eye sense up there. I don't know. The Metal hypothesized that maybe they use pre-laid out panel layouts to save time, so maybe that was it. Later on, though, there's like a really clever use of the gutter here, where she trips and falls on this strange kid she doesn't know, and then the censored bar is right over there, and the picture is above and below, so you put two and two together to work out what happens. So, even this, like, this is a pretty good example. So there are a lot of romance anime that use kind of like the joke of, oh no, something silly and sexual happened, oopsie doopsie, and the comedy comes from the fact that it was innocent. She's an innocent girl, she never intended for this to happen. And what I kind of like about this is, I don't like it when that kind of gag is used in place of romance. Like, there's actually no romance, there's nothing of the characters learning about who each other are. They're always just like tripping and falling onto bed with each other. Whoopsie doopsie. So when Ayo does this kind of classic manga gag, she makes a point that this is just like an embarrassing thing for Futaba, and like then it becomes a running gag in that she keeps feeling embarrassed about it. He wants to tell her not to worry about it, but he doesn't know if she's just going to be more embarrassed about it if he talks to her. She gets roasted by her classmates, and they call her a pervert, right? So the humor of it builds, because if this happened to you in real life, like, everyone would know, oh, that was an accident, but they'd still make fun of you and tease you for it, and it just feels really true to life, actually. So, I'm going to keep reading it. Oh, how to ride in the light of the scent of air after rain, in the light around us. I felt your heartbeat. So girly. So much talking about emotions and how you feel, and friendship, and opening up to one another. But it's good. All right. Delicious in Dungeon, Volume 2. So, read Volume 1, loved Volume 1, and I think when I read Volume 1, I said, how good can this possibly be? Like, isn't the joke of gonna get old? The joke is basically Dungeons and Dragons, they're going through the dungeon to save the sister, and they don't have any food, so they have to cook and eat the monsters that they find, right? So the joke is combining delicious, gourmet recipes with fantasy Dungeons and Dragons style monsters. And I really enjoyed the first volume. It was a lot of fun. Volume 2 is really, really good, and my commenters told me the character development is really good. This is getting really, really, really good. The art is on point because, it's cute and adorable when it needs to be. Like, oh no, Marcel, she doesn't want to eat gross bugs. Ew, that's so gross. Right? So, it's cutesy-bootsy for that kind of stuff. But then for the monsters and the fights, it'll have a bit more of an epic, detailed feeling. There are different types of characters who have different types of facial structures, so they don't have the same face syndrome. And there's some really good, like, scary horror elements to it. So it's moving beyond just like, let's eat the monsters, to every chapter kind of becomes a little short story about one of these monsters. Like, are the monsters kind of friendly and cute? Are they particularly pernicious and dangerous? Maybe they have a sense of evil to them. And there's always like a creative way for how they beat the monsters. So I don't play D&D, but if you play D&D, you'll probably get some like great ideas to try out on your DM from this, and I'm just getting invested to it just purely as like a really fun, clever fantasy story. So I guess there's like a shovel knight or a shovel dwarf shows up. Jump in ahead. Okay, they do a really neat thing with orcs, and orcs are something where, J.R.R. Tolkien basically introduced them as a race to fantasy literature, and the thing I've noticed for people to do is they want to deconstruct Tolkien. So their bright idea is, what if the orcs are the good guys and the elves and humans are the bad guys? What if the elves and humans are just always genociding the orcs, and the orcs are totally innocent and they never did anything wrong, right? And the problem with that is it thinks it's really sophisticated, but all it really is it's just it's black and white morality, but the roles are flipped because that's so different. And I really, really like the orc story in this. They get captured by some orcs. The orcs basically murder some people in a bar, right? So they're like rough, savage guys, but they have a grievance. They live underground and they fight because they need to survive, and they blame the elves and the humans for going to war with them. And then Marcel, fights back and says, well, look, we go to war with you because you go to war with us, right? So it's not black and white, orcs good, elves bad. There's clearly like some bad blood going back, several generations between these guys. And there's really this nice kind of like humanizing moment where, like the orcs have children, the orcs have wives, the orcs have a normal life. They're willing to kill human beings and to steal their stuff, but they're not necessarily like bloodthirsty enough that they'll kill a friend. So like the orcs respect, I think his name is Shishay the dwarf. They respect the dwarf because he's like a man of the wild, and he barters with them. And there's this really sweet point where they kind of get the protagonist to think about what are they trying to accomplish. Are you just barging around down here to make money and fight some monsters? Or are you actually going to do something if you defeat evil and claim the kingdom? Are you going to just wipe us out if you become the kings? Are you going to make peace with us if you become the kings? It's really human because basically they're sort of like kind of they come to respect each other a little bit more, or humanize each other by making food together. Anything else I want to say about that? It's just a very, very sweet, very human little story in the midst of this. And it's also kind of like a neat negotiation aspect where they don't entirely trust each other, but the orcs recognize that, if these humans go kill the dragon will stop eating them. So it's bad if they know where we are, but maybe we can. It's all about, can you trust someone you don't know? And how do you, and food is kind of a way of maybe breaking down that barrier. So I really dug that. Snacks, I won't spoil what happens in Snacks. It's just a really, really effective, scary story. And I loved how this whole new party is introduced. And I love how they all have like their own, a different feel from the main protagonists. And all of them just feel different. They have their own carriage and personality to them, but maybe they have a different mentality where the main party is all about foraging and getting food for yourself, and they're more about, well, let's buy our food because we don't want to be foraging down in a disgusting dungeon. Here's one of these like creative things where they make holy water, but they don't sprinkle it around. They use it as like a blunt force trauma instrument, and they make the point that, well, the goats can go through walls, so they'll just go through the glass and the holy water will touch them and they're gone. There's also like a really interesting thing where they do world building in a natural way. So the joke is, oh, they're hungry. What if we go inside the living paintings and get the food in the paintings? Duh, 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 what a great idea. And then while they're in there, and he's stupidly failing to get food every time, he's getting information about the kings who ruled the land previously. So they don't like sit down and someone say, what is the deal with this castle? Well, let me tell you, Jimmy, once upon a time there was King so-and-so and Prince so-and-so. No, it's just very naturally working in some world building into, a silly, funny story where they're just trying to get some food. And the last story is perfect. I won't spoil it, but it basically humanizes the dwarf character, where the entire time the dwarf character has basically been the center focus because he's the only one who knows how to forage and survive on his own without buying food, and the whole party is less experienced in that, and they're basically relying on him. And it kind of makes the point that even a guy like him, who's really experienced and really understands the wild and loves the wild, can make mistakes and maybe misjudge the animals that he hunts and interacts with to survive. It's absolutely fabulous. So I'm really hooked. I'm going to be reading lots of Delicious in Dungeon now. 4 recommends, and don't worry, Cowboy Bebop stands. I've got the DVD. I'll be watching Cowboy Bebop soon. I'm sure I will be completely insufferable talking about Cowboy Bebop once I finally watch it after all these years. All right, 4 good books, 14 minutes, we're good. #1 Marmaduke fan. Love you guys. Catch you later.